Cool. Yeah, I had to, for a moment, it was telling me I couldn't record to my computer because I don't have enough space. So we are recording to the cloud. Um,
Cool.
all right, so we'll just pop right on in. I made this planning meeting agenda. Again, I was hoping a couple more folks would pop in. But just briefly, I'll go over the agenda real quick. We'll do a roll call, then we'll discuss the purpose and scope of the strike. We'll set some measurable, tangible goals. We'll discuss where and how to protest. Um, we'll set a time to meet to make signs. And maybe this is something that we can do through, we don't have to do this at this meeting, but we'll set a when to meet since there's nobody really here. Um, Outreach tactics, remote, social media, call and email campaign. That's something that you and I discussed yesterday, Natalie, the call and email campaign. Outreach tactics in person, flyering high volume areas and businesses. And then we will talk about a group chat to plan with non-driver supporters. Then we can do announcements and updates. I did want to talk about the HB 924, but it's not really pressing for this meeting. It's sort of like extra, it's relevant to us, but not immediately relevant to this strike plan. Um, okay, yeah. So, all right. So roll call. That'll just be me and you. Um, I guess you and I went over a good deal of this yesterday, the purpose and or on Monday, whichever day that was, uh, the purpose and scope of the strike. Um, and just to have it on just briefly in this one, I will read into the minutes the goals and objectives. We want to build power and recruit new drivers. We want to raise public awareness about drivers issues. We want to build toward a united front with other drivers groups. We want to develop relationships with community organizations and social justice groups. We want to test our organizational strength and build internal qualitative strength. So we want in addition to increasing the quantity of drivers, we want to increase the quality of our organizational strength. We want to maximize engagement across multiple levels, and we want to involve the wider community. Yeah, we did cover all that just the other day, so we won't get too deep into it. But that's the purpose and the scope. That's the purpose of the strike. Scope of the strike. We are calling it a global strike. That was aspirational in the beginning. I would not say that this one is global, right? Maybe we could we could say international instead. As far as I know, I personally have only been in contact in any meaningful way with a drivers group in Toronto, Ontario. They're called the Rideshare Drivers of Ontario, Rideshare Drivers Association of Ontario, or something. And they've been using some of the tools that I developed for the Richmond drivers. The initial solidarity survey. I went to their website. I noticed that they adapted it to their purposes. So they're collecting the same data as we are, but and using it internally, which is cool. I think that there's great potential for us to sort of stay in touch with that group, and we can bounce ideas off of each other of how what that form and survey did well and what it didn't do well. That's the exact kind of thing that I'm excited about this. That and a driver from South Africa. I ended up joining some Cape Town groups for drivers just to see, because the rideshare professor mentioned that some Cape Town drivers were that he was in touch with them. So I figured I would just sort of cast a wide net. And so one person has responded so far and said they're interested in chatting with me about tactics and strategies to develop their strike. So I don't know yet whether there's any organization going on there so far, or if it's just that one person. But yeah, so that's Ontario, South Africa, and then here. But I know within the US, the Chicago Gig Drivers Alliance is joining the Molda members in Twin Cities. They're an offshoot group from Molda. Molda started like making deals with Lyft. And so Molda members like sort of backed out and we're like, no, we're more radical than that. So Molda members is participating. The DMV Drivers Alliance is participating, but they are not using the language of strike. They're calling it a protest. That word is not, I don't know. It's for some reason they're not using it. And then Portland, I noticed, is participating in the Valentine's Day, and they're doing monthly actions, or maybe it was even weekly. I'll have to double check. But I haven't spoken to anyone from their group yet, but I did see it online. I want to track them down. Um, so that's that. Just there is potential for us to plug in with these other groups and skill share and share tools and resources. And I think that's one of the greatest things that the strike will do for us as drivers, as a class, right? As gig drivers. 411. Okay, so okay, 5 minutes. That one was all right. Where and how to protest. So our two main options are getting a permit to protest at the airport. And that would either be somewhere like outside where the riders get picked up on that bottom level, or maybe up top where riders get dropped off at the top level. But either way, the only people that would be there would be drivers and anybody else that we invited to show community support. Um, and so uh yeah, it's a little out of the way, and the only way it would really look impressive is if we had dozens of drivers participating and hopefully at least a couple dozen community supporters as well. Um so I think even though doing something downtown would be more complicated to pull off, and would likely also need permits of some kind, it might be better just for generating buzz and public awareness. I know that we've chatted about this in text messages, but do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I definitely agree downtown. The airport's so out of the way, like I don't, I mean, no one's going to see us there.
Yeah,
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 like unless we got on the news, which we would have to be a really big thing to pull off. But no, other than that, no one's going to see it.
yeah. Okay. All right. So downtown, I think, yeah, it makes sense, right? So I've put here courthouse, city hall, general assembly building, as three sort of options. So there was a protest. The reason I put general assembly building was sort of twofold. A, that's where the laws are being passed right now, like the general assembly is in session. And B, there's just a sort of poetic, it's like just standing in front of the place that makes the laws, you know. And C, I attended recently a rally for Red Onion prisoners who are on hunger strike. And so it's like there's a corner directly across the street from the General Assembly building. And it is very much a bustling street corner. Um, so I mean, only the people who would be driving past would see us, maybe. But if we had a couple dozen people standing there, that would be good, you know.
Yeah,
And so, but I was thinking, would we just, you know, would we park somewhere nearby and all walk there separately and then meet at the General Assembly building? Or perhaps it makes sense to meet in the convention center parking garage, just because it's big enough to hold all of us, and then we march together 4 blocks to the General Assembly building corner.
I mean, I'd be down for either or. Um, yeah, either one would work for me.
Okay. I know that some of our drivers have disabilities, and some are just sort of older and maybe don't want to walk for 4 or 5 blocks. And I want to be respectful of that. And so maybe we can put something in our planning document to see if we can ask a driver to sort of carpool with anyone who like doesn't want to walk or can't walk. Um, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Oh, do we got a joiner or is that somebody in your background? Oh, Marlo's back. Cool. Hi, Marlo.
Yeah, I've been back a little bit for a little while. How are you doing?
Good. Right on. Yeah, I didn't. I had the thing minimized. Okay.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Right on. So yeah, I'm glad you're back. Natalie and I, we skipped the introductions part because it was only just us two in the beginning, but I guess we can back up and do that. I mean, we'll just try to do 20, 30 seconds each. I'll start. My name's Andy. I'm 35. Been a driver for Uber and Lyft for a little over a year and for a DoorDash for another year prior to that. Got involved in the Richmond Drivers Alliance. Well, I got involved by starting the Richmond Drivers Alliance last summer. It's just been sort of a struggle to get things to get a core team to join me in doing it. And so that's one of the things I'm excited about is seeing if I can't generate some sustained cooperation here. But yeah, that's me. Um, Natalie, would you like to introduce yourself and then Marlo?
Yeah, I'm Natalie. I've been driving since January 2019. Started with Uber Eats, and they introduced the upfront fares instead of by mileage, and then the income dropped in half. So I switched over to driving passengers, and Uber's been doing the same. Uber and Lyft have both been doing the same thing with that and dropping the wages. And I'm making less and less every year, and it's yeah. So I'm all about this strike.
Cool.
Ready?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm Marlo. I'm 70. Been driving Uber for about 8 years, and the last few years watching things decline financially. Pretty frustrating, but yeah, that's where it is.
Yep. Thanks. Thanks for sharing. Nice to meet y'all. And thank you so much for joining this meeting. This is cool. All righty. Well, back down into it. Marlo, I don't know when you jumped in. I won't recap the whole thing, but we just went over the purpose and scope of the strike. And then we
Yeah,
jumped into where and how to protest. We're thinking somewhere downtown. I'm thinking
yeah,
um
I heard that part.
okay, yeah. So how does that feel? We plan to have everyone meet at the convention center parking deck. It does cost money to park there. It's like $8 or something like that. If if people want to try to park nearby for free and then meet us at there, they can. Um,
Right.
but yeah, we'll meet on the third floor of the convention center parking deck, and we'll just get our signs together and things like that, and then we'll march from there um, to the General Assembly building. Um,
Okay.
and then we will have a couple of speakers, myself for sure, and maybe if I can convince another couple other drivers to say, a minute or two or something like that. Um, but yeah, so I think that's what we'll try to do is if that sounds good to y'all, is march from convention center to General Assembly, and then gather there with like a megaphone and a couple speakers, and some signs, and we'll sort of just try to make the signs visible to passersby. Um,
Yep. Yeah, sounds good.
cool.
Yeah.
And so that I'm sorry, go ahead, Marlo.
No, that's good. I'm with you.
Okay. And what do we think? Do we think it's worthwhile to do any sort of a caravan? Does that make sense too? Or is that overkill? Or I kind of like the idea, but logistically we would just have to situate it either before or after the rally. Um, so I think if we do a caravan, maybe it would make sense to meet up at the convention center. I don't know. I guess energetically it feels weird to drive in circles together and then park and then march. But I don't want to do overkill, but I think it would be a good way to increase general visibility. It would just be then a matter of determining what route we take. If y'all think a caravan is a good idea.
Yeah, I could do that. I'd be down for that.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I want to. What kind of participation do you expect? Drivers, local drivers.
Um, I've gotten about 2 dozen commitments, verbal commitments from drivers who have sort of just said, "Yeah, I'm into it." Like probably not coming to that meeting, but I'm into it.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I'm hoping about 2 dozen of drivers proper. But I've also got some connections to the organized labor community here in Richmond as well. I'm a member of the Richmond Workers Assembly, which is basically a coalition of representative rank and file representatives of various unions, labor unions in town. Not all of them, but some of them, right? So there's a teachers union, a healthcare union. There's a restaurant workers group that I'm hoping we'll be working with pretty regularly soon. And so I think we could probably tap into some of these groups and get at least maybe 12 or 2 dozen non-driver supporters to show up with us. But I don't know if it makes sense to have them caravan with us or just do the march and rally. What do y'all think?
Mhm.
I don't know. The more the merrier.
Okay.
You know. Oh, oh, wow. I don't know. As many people as in that lot out there, generally, we should have a pretty good. Probably should be out there pushing it. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the more the better. I mean, yeah, I don't the
Yeah,
question,
obviously, yeah.
yeah, I think so. I've got about I can show you let's see. I'm gonna pause my screen share just for a second, just so I don't show any sensitive information on this
Sure.
document.
Cool.
And I'll pop it open when it's safe to look at. But basically, the survey that both of y'all filled out has also been filled out by mostly people in Virginia. Let's see, I can turn my screen back on now. Um, yeah, so I got 14 responses. Will you join us in solidarity by turning off your rideshare and delivery apps? You can see here we've got one Asheville, one Boulder, one Chicago, one Denver, and then one Huntsville, one Vegas. So it looks like, what is that? Vegas, Huntsville, Denver, Chicago, Boulder, Asheville. Six. Okay, so we've got 8 non-driver supporters so far who've signed up. And none of these are like labor unions or anything like that. Um,
Right.
and they've signed up to participate in various ways. Let's see. Most people have said that they would join a protest. Or excuse me, actually only 5 of them did. 5 people said that they would join a protest, so we can follow up with those that are in Richmond. Actually, I recognize one of my friends on there, and he don't have a car, but I'll bring him with me.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so but I think we can probably push this form out pretty insistently over the next couple weeks. And I know that Zoom will show it backwards, but I made new flyers, Marlo, and I can find you and drop some off. But
Okay.
basically, we can be given these to our riders, not every rider, because we want to make sure that they're like safe to talk to first. You want to sort of just vet them before you just talk about labor, you know? Um,
Right.
but if a rider feels safe to discuss this kind of a thing with, you can pass them this flyer and ask them to fill out the form. And their version of the form, the non-driver supporter, basically asks like, you know, to what degree do you want to get involved, and also will you be turning your app off, and also do you have any friends or family that drive for any of these companies. So it serves the added benefit of hopefully helping us connect to friends and family members that are also drivers of these folks. Yeah, I'm hoping, I would love to, and this is something that actually from our agenda that I wanted to hit on. Oh yeah, tangible goals, measurable tangible goals, right? So you asked how many drivers we want to participate. Um, I said about 2 dozen have verbally committed. I would say that probably about half of them will find something else to do that day or be unavailable that day. But I would also like to say that hopefully as a group we could double the amount of commitments. So if we could get 4 dozen commitments and 2 dozen drivers show up, that would be great, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Um, Sustained involvement of X amount of drivers. If we can get 2 dozen drivers to show up, I would hope that a half dozen of them would want to do more than just the one action. So we'll make a goal. Does that sound good as a goal? 6 drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Outreach to X amount of organizations and media. For this one, I'm gonna pop over to this spreadsheet that I made. And I showed this to you a couple days ago, Natalie. It'll be new for you, Marlo. Essentially, it's broken up into sheets down here at the bottom: labor unions and organizations, faith organizations, social justice orgs, mutual aid orgs, tenants unions, and socialist orgs, and then media outlets. So the idea is to I've got this here. Copy it. The idea is we want to set a goal of reaching out to X amount of each of these groups, and with the goal of X amount of them participating, right? So uh drivers organizations are have been hard to get in touch with, but let's say we want to reach out to 6 total, develop and stay in touch with 3.
Okay.
Labor organizations. I want to set this one high just because I know that there's got to be 10 10 labor unions here in Richmond. So I'm just going
Right.
to say 10 for outreach. And if we can get half to commit, that would be great. Faith organizations. I mean, I'm just basically just saying these numbers arbitrarily, but I don't want to overload us, you know. But I think if we can identify the a few of the, you know, correct congregations to reach out to, that would be like that most need us to let them know about our strike, and also, you know, like the highest number. I would say let's try to reach out to at least 6, and see if we can get half to commit. Mutual aid organizations, there's only like a handful in Richmond. MAD RVA, Matchbox, I would say if there's one more we can find.
Okay.
Social justice organizations. Um, let's try to reach out to a half dozen as well. And this is I told Natalie yesterday that I would have this spreadsheet populated a little bit by now. I haven't gotten to it. I will do it this evening. Tenants organizations. There's only two really in town right now. And
Wow.
one of them's not active. I might be incorrect, but the Richmond Tenants Union is the has operations in a few different neighborhoods right now, but they are like one unit. The other group, Richmond Tenants Defense Council, is a little bit less active. They're only in the Red Oak apartment complex area. Um, but I'll reach out to both of them. Um, and actually, I spoke to one of the organizers of the Richmond Tenants Union is a member of the Richmond Workers Assembly, and so I already gave them the rundown a couple weeks ago at the last Richmond Workers Assembly meeting, and I told her to expect some follow up. So that's cool. Media
I'm,
organizations.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
So,
have to check. I'm gonna have to check out on you. Maybe I'm at my place here.
okay.
Okay.
All righty. I will.
Yep.
I'll be in touch with the rest of the minutes and the notes from this meeting. And I'll have a couple of asks for you between here in the next couple of days.
Sounds good. All right.
All right,
Thanks a
great.
lot.
Thanks for tuning
All
in.
right.
Talk to you soon.
No, no problem. Okay. Bye bye.
Okie doke. Um, Media organizations, 10, assuming maybe a third of them will respond. Socialist organizations. I only know of like 4 or 5 here in town. I can do the outreach for those. It's like the Communist League of Richmond, Democratic Socialists of America, Anarchist Black Cross, and then some like other counter power, something like that. Yeah, I put these in the doc because they're, sort of they're often are connected to active people, right? People who are accustomed to like hopping in on campaigns like this. And so I think it would be a useful amplifier for us to not shut out the farther left folks from our organizing.
Okay.
Um, each driver pass out X amount of flyers. I would change this to, I wouldn't say each. I would say let's try to get let's aim for 10 drivers to pass out drivers between now and then. Um, X amount. I don't know. I would say if the average driver does 15 trips in a day, maybe about half of them might be safe to talk about labor with. Maybe more than that. I don't want to shortchange the people, but I just want to, out of an abundance of caution, right? So I would say if we can get 10 drivers to pass out a total of 35 flyers, that would each, that would be awesome. Hopefully more, but I just don't want to overshoot the moon. But just setting a quantitative goal will help us. If we overshoot it, we'll know better for next time. Okay, so setting a time to meet to make signs. Again, this I'll send out a when to meet. And I'll let's see. I'll make it so that it's for sometime in the last week, but not like the last couple days. That'll give us a week to spread this link around and invite people to the sign making night.
Mm.
Outreach tactics, remote. We need to share the same post with the same hashtags. And we've got this spreadsheet going on. Outreach tactics, in person, flyering high volume areas and businesses, canvassing airport with flyers and surveys, driver to rider relations. You've already got some flyers to give to your riders, and when you run out, please let me know. I'll come drop some more off to you.
It sounds good.
It's been a while since I've done any Amazon pickups or drop off. Do you happen to know offhand about when they clock in? It's like 6 o'clock, right? 5:30, 6 in the morning.
I have no idea, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, I will ask.
And a nighttime. My ex was doing it for a while, and I think they would go in at 7 o'clock at night, 6 or 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, okay. It's probably 12 hour shifts, 12 hour shifts a day, I think, probably.
Well, these were the gig workers. It would be like 3 hour shifts, 3 or 4 hour shifts.
Oh yeah, okay, like the Amazon
The Amazon
Flex.
what's yeah, Flex, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're on our I almost said the S word. They're on our bad list too. I'm trying not to curse. Um yeah, I mean, that is a gig job, right? They are our direct enemy, Amazon, Most people who work in the Amazon factories don't also do flex. Um but yeah, they're like a prize target for me, Amazon. Ooh, I can't wait. But because there's so many people there, what I really want to stress, trying to find a couple drivers who regularly do Amazon pickups and drop-offs, between now and the strike, and see if we can't get at least one like flyer pack in. If we can, find an Amazon where maybe I can just like try to do outreach on social media. Hey, does anybody work at Amazon? They enrich, like, because I know that 5, 10, 20, 30 people every day get rides to work from Uber Lyft, if not more, right? To
Oh,
each
yeah.
probably of those factories.
Yeah, I don't accept the rides anymore because they're too far out there, and I don't get compensated to do them or
Yep,
fair. So
for the ride back. Yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's
or the ride there even. It's like I make so much more money if I just stay in the fan, Churchill and whatnot.
yep. Yeah, it's like that's the good strategy in the morning, especially too when there's a surge, you want short trip, short trip, short trip.
Well, and especially now they pay us even base wage. They pay us less the longer the trip is. So there's absolutely no incentive to do the long trips.
Yeah, it's their bad. And I've told riders that too.
Oh,
Like
I
people
called
adding a second trip. I'm like, look, I would love to help you out, but literally when they do it like this, I miss out on that extra base pay and I can't afford it. I need that base pay 5 times an hour. I just do.
Yeah, yeah, I don't do multiple stops. I will cancel the ride on people now. I don't do long trips. Like all that stuff costs me too much money. Like it's not worth it anymore. I just can't do it.
Yeah, and I tell riders all the time, like I wish that I got paid enough to just like not have to race against the algorithm and not have to gamify it. I would love to just relax and take you where you got to go,
Yeah,
and let you go. But like, I just can't afford it. They don't
yeah,
pay me enough.
yeah.
Um,
And then I think I honestly what I think is they get brand new drivers who aren't thinking about the costs and they're accepting these things and they're like, oh, I just made $17, and then a couple months go by and they realize they've been getting ripped off. So it's like they just keep getting new people in who don't realize how much money they're actually spending.
yeah. Yeah, I
It's really
envision,
easy about
I'm
gas,
I'm
tires.
picturing like 2 years from now, right? When our local Amazon factories are self-organized as well, right? When the workers there are organized, and like the Amazon workers are giving flyers to the Uber drivers, like, hey, are y'all in the Richmond Drivers Alliance yet? And vice versa. I would love for Richmond Drivers Alliance people to be like well-trained organizers who can identify what workers need the most like assistance organizing,
Yeah.
that's like that's down the road. We're nowhere near advanced enough for that, but it's aspirational, to use our flexibility and versatility to really shake things up and get some labor movement going. It will only benefit us to have more labor consciousness in our city.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If we can get enough people, there's a lot of I was this podcast was like chaos striking. Have you heard of that? So it's what the Sean Fain did recently, and it's what the airline people did, where they weren't if they go on strike, they get fired, the airline people.
Uh-huh.
So what they do is they would do very, very short strikes, like for half an hour. So
Yeah.
and then which could I don't know, say at 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the morning on Saturday, if every driver in Richmond just shut off, the surge price would go through the roof.
Yep.
And we could be shut off for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes just to get that surge price up really high. Piss
Yeah.
piss
And
off
the
and cost the company a lot of money.
Yep, and the level of coordination that it would take to pull that off would be an impressive marker for us as a group, right? When we
Oh, yeah.
can
It
when
would,
we
it would,
can
it
say
would,
that we can do that at will as a group and that we're like in tune with each other, like that is when we'll know that we're organized.
yeah. Yeah, if we would have to get a lot of people together to be able to pull that off. But if we could pull it off, we could really, really hurt Uber and Lyft.
Yep. I know that the last time the DMV Drivers Alliance held a micro strike, like a 1 day strike like this, they got like 400 members added to their group that week.
No,
Their scope is bigger, they got a bigger population. So I mean, if we could do a tenth of that, if we could add 50 drivers by like word of mouth over the next couple weeks and like on strike day, and if we get in the news even better, right? Then people will be like, oh, the Richmond what now? The Richmond Drivers Alliance.
yeah. Well, and I know that practically every driver agrees with us because I talked to passengers about it, and every passenger I talked about it, so they're like, "Oh, that's what all the drivers say."
Yeah.
But, it's not like, "Oh, so and so says they're making a lot of money." Like literally, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, every driver I've ever talked to says that Uber and Lyft are screwing you guys."
Yep.
So
Um,
I know, there's a lot of us out there.
Yep. The main thing that I've been bumping up against is people who are theoretically supportive, but who can't get over the hump of nihilism, right? This belief that our actions won't do anything. And it's
Mhm.
not apathy really. It's not like, hey, I don't care enough to do this. It's like I don't believe enough in change. um and there are some folks that are like scared of getting deactivated, getting retaliated against. That was one thing. I was talking to some folks at the airport today, and they were like, we don't want to do the airport. I should have mentioned this earlier. They put their input was they don't want to do the airport because I was talking about how the laws for airport protests, you need to have a name tag on. And they were like, that's a sit and duck. All Uber has to do is just match your first name and your face to footage of the protests, and you're done. you know um
Yeah, that is a concern too, because also I think, well, this has changed because I know Biden is did an executive order basically reclassifying gig workers were more laborers than we were, but
yeah.
I did we Uber we haven't really had the right to unionize versus laborers actually have the right to unionize. But
Yeah.
since we're independent contractors, we don't technically have that right.
Yeah. Yeah, we
So
have the right to unionize, but they're not obligated to negotiate with us, right? They're not obligated to recognize us as a union. So we can call ourselves that, and we can have like the dues paying member cards and all that, but they can just simply say no, we'll just hire other people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't exactly sure how. Yeah. So that's definitely a concern of mine because I can't. I'm not in the position to give up Uber Lyft yet. I'm working to get there, but I don't have any alternative.
Yeah. And so on that note, well, that's one of the things that we're fighting against is unfair deactivations. And they've got too much leeway right now to just say they can just say whatever reason and say that's final, and they can just like even you can request to get it reviewed, and then they can just say like based on our feelings, we say like double no. And then the only recourse that we have is to take them to small claims court, and that does often get reversals. I haven't done a reactivation yet for a driver in Richmond, but the DMV Drivers Alliance has done like 5, I think, so far. And the process, basically, as I understand it, is literally just like get the facts of the case together and sue them, and they back off. Not every time, but what I'm getting at is that the deactivation is a risk, that we take. Um, and the group of drivers I was talking to at the airport today, right? One guy said that about the name tag matching the face, and the other guy was like, "Well, if they really want to, they've got all of our facial recognition data from every time we log in." So, but I think that giving them less easy data, is good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so if they were to deactivate for something totally bogus and it were right after an action, we could make a case that it was retaliation, but it would be very difficult to prove.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing like that I'm not too worried about the strike because it, it's it's going to be really really hard for them to say that if they were like, oh, this person was striking, like maybe I just didn't feel like we're, if we're doing a 1 day strike, it's like I just didn't feel like working that day, you know.
Yeah.
So it'd be really, and then if there's enough people, like even if they know something's enough people that they know something is definitely going on, it's going to be really hard to pin it on any one person
Yeah.
because we choose our own hours, so it's not like it's not like we're obligated to work those days anyway.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So, okay. So I would just want to recap. I know that you said you were early, shorter is better, so I'll try to wrap this up. Um, So our next steps, I guess my next step is to, oh, and this is the item we haven't hit yet. There because of I started to get there actually. Based on this survey data where there's, half a dozen people in Richmond who are willing to help to some degree. Um, what I want to do is make a signal chat that is not the Richmond Drivers Alliance chat that is like our permanent ongoing one, but like a pop-up chat just for planning this strike and adding drivers and non-driver supporters to it. And that way we can sort of use it to disseminate like news and updates and coordinate flyer campaigns and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so I'll make that as a next step when we hop off. Um, so next steps for me, I've got until 5:30 till my next meeting starts for this other thing. So I am gonna update the spreadsheet, excuse me, with some of these numbers. And I will message you, I'll text message you by the end of the night to let you know which ones I've updated. And then you and I can both make some calls tomorrow in between our trips.
Yeah, sounds good. Just anyone in particular I should call, or will you have a list for me?
Yeah, I'll have the list for you, and I'll link you to the templates that I made. This whole folder is kind of overwhelming if you're looking at all of it all at once. Um, but I've made all these templates that will help. So like um a template for reaching out to labor organizations, would you basically connect to the right thing, explain the strike and emphasize the solidarity. The survey section, as I mentioned, correlates to the form, the Google form, this one. So essentially the phone banker, whoever's doing the calling, would try to steer the conversation toward, hey, can I ask you these survey questions? And try to get these commitments from folks. But depending on the organization, I guess, like for a labor organization, it would be, like pass this along to your individual members. And then also if your whole organization would like to sign up in solidarity, that would be great. Um, you know, so I'll tighten up the ones that I'll have that you'll be calling for before I send them to you, but it'll just have um for both phone and email. And that way we can. Oh, and also the project strike spreadsheet, says yes or no, did they sign on? Yes or no, are they willing to amplify? Yes or no, are they willing to picket? Um, and then first contact notes. So that would be like where you would type, whether they answered or whether they responded, and then any follow-up notes would go here. And then obviously we can make more columns. um, but does the basic format of the spreadsheet make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. Sweet. Okay, so then back to next steps. I will send you at least some of those by the end of the night. And oh yeah, get to this. I will make a when to meet to try to figure out when we can get people together for sign making. Um, and I will synthesize the decisions we made about the strike itself and make a social media post graphics for it. And I will text you the link to the post itself. And I could send you the files too, so you could post them like elsewhere, right? But if it would be good to like share the Richmond Drivers Alliance post to an Instagram story or something. We've got an Instagram and a Facebook, but not a Twitter. I'm just like, too many apps is too much, but I can post to both meta apps at the same time, which is why it's okay to have them both. Yeah. So gosh, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. Let me. All right. So when to meet for making signs. I will make social media posts updating about the new strike plan. And yeah, and I guess actually after we get rid of this batch of flyers, I just printed a whole bunch more. The next round of flyers I'll make with specific strike details, and then we can get those out too. um and so okay. And then I will make the signal group to invite riders and drivers. Excuse me, yeah, supporters and drivers. And we'll go from there in that group and try to just use it. Is that all that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And you got anything you'd like to add or concerns or questions, anything like that?
Signal, is that an app that I'm gonna have to download?
Oh yes, unfortunately, yeah. And Yeah, it is. It's an app. It's a good app. What it's good for is it's end-to-end encrypted. Meta can't sell this data to Uber. But that is an annoying part of it is having to download a whole new app. And I don't think it's the best app for longer term or larger planning. I will eventually make a Discord or a Slack, which are both separate apps, but they're cool because they're not just message like just linear, like one by one by one. Each server is separated into channels, and so each channel can have a different topic or subject. So we can say we can have like a strike day protest channel, and then we can have a flyering channel, and then we can have a. But that'll be, I don't know, I think maybe it's too much for this one. But yeah, Signal is just an app. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I will
Cool.
when you get that set up, I'll download the app. So
Okay, rad. I will be in touch soon. Thanks again, for joining me on such short notice, twice in a week. I super appreciate that.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Cool. All righty. Talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you.